Hello, Joe Franco here, and thank you for watching and downloading Video Insights number 3. Today's topic is a little more personal as far as what I've been doing with promoting my shows and how I got started. I've had first-time promoters ask me how I got started, and they've always asked me some questions regarding my current shows right now. So I'm going to go back in some history and how it all began as far as when I started promoting through the OCB and those first couple shows, and actually well beyond that. So it all started, when I was working with clients in person, one-on-one, at my first home studio where I used to live. And this was before the online coaching ever started. So I would see these clients and they would want to compete eventually, so we would look for shows. Well, back then it was not so much the internet, but what the gyms would advertise. And also there were a couple local shows in my area. There was one in Hatboro, Horsham. There was the one that I used to do in New Jersey down in Wildwood that I competed in a number of times. And I believe that federation was called the USNBA. They're no longer having any, contests or promoting. So if I messed up the initials, I'm sorry. The one in Hatboro, Horsham, they had that one, and the one in Wildwood. And then occasionally there was an NGA show, in our area. So we would go to these shows and I would put clients in them. And then after that, we discovered through some of my clients that there was an INBF show right in the Allentown area, so we did that. So this is really in the span of, between 1998 and 2002. So we would go to these shows and we would basically not rip them, but we would always find something wrong. It was just delayed starts, mess ups by the MC. I mean, little things. As a promoter, we always go through them, but it got to me thinking, well, could I do this on my own, or how about start up my own federation? And one of my clients was very involved in competing and also in the bodybuilding world beyond that, and he was like, you know what, I'll help you. I mean, I'll do graphics work, we'll set up a mission statement. We had it all written out. But just at that time in my life, I just wasn't ready to take it on. A few years passed. Then a good friend of mine, Anthony, turned me on. I was training him from some shows, and he turned me on to the OCB. And that forum that was on the internet for all those years. And that was like, if you're a natural competitor, that was the place to go to find out information about shows, what other people are doing, workouts, training, everything. It was a fantastic site. Before Facebook really, I think, destroyed it, but we all evolve. So with that, that's how I learned personally of the OCB, and I followed that for a couple of years, and then lo and behold, they ended up having a show 2005 in Wildwood. So I was like, wow, this is the same area where I used to compete, when I used to travel to the Jersey Shore. So that was my first OCB show that I ever competed in 2005 in Wildwood. It was at the convention center, the new one at least, and that was really not a good setting for a show because it was a manufactured stage and like a ballroom type facility. But Matt Shepley, finding this after, he wanted to capture that audience from those shows in the 90s that I used to compete in because they used to have a good draw. So long story short on that, I competed in that show in 2005. I was fortunate enough to win. And after the show, I always feel like you got to go up to the judges and you just want to talk to them and thank them, obviously, for the experience and any feedback. And I was talking to Matt, I said, well, thanks, for putting on the show. It meant a lot to me that I was able to do it. And then the second words, or the second sentence that came out of my mouth is like, well, I'm interested in promoting. He looked at me and just like, dude, don't you want to go eat? I mean, come on. So I said, yeah, I do, but I just want to tell you that, I'm from Bucks County. I would like to promote a show, possibly in Philly or whatnot. So some time went by, but we stayed in contact. And what happened from there, he offered me that Wildwood show. He said, you know what, the area, you can take this over, but we thought not to use the Wildwood Convention Center because it was kind of costly, he informed me. So we searched it out, and I ended up finding the spot in Burlington, and ever since 2006, I've been having shows there. When it comes to promoting, and that's how I got started. For those who've asked me in the past, that's how I got into the game of promoting contests. From that point on, 2006, it was a struggle. I mean, you start something brand new. It's almost like starting a new business, and you got to put your time in. And the first year, I only had 22 competitors, but I wasn't discouraged because I knew it was the first time doing this. And if the product is going to grow, you have to put it out there, and eventually it would catch on and take over by itself for the sake, just like any business. I mean, it's word of mouth. I mean, if you put it out there, it's good. People are going to come and want to be part of it, and that's what happened. Following year went up to 35, then I reached the 60s and bounced around there. So really, it takes over, and I just make sure the show goes off without a hitch now, with being so focused on the administrative end. I'm not going to go into like too much detail and all that, but I've seen shows sometimes that get away from the administrative end, and really what happens, they focus on other aspects rather than the background of wanting just to make the show go smoothly. And I think that's one of my strengths personally. I've seen contests where they have too many additives to it, if that's a way of putting it, and it just takes away from the competitors. Being a competitor myself, it's like, you want solid, you want a fast pace, you don't have to wait, you don't need all these extra things going on during the contest to really throw you off. So that's something I pride on, but that's for another video insight as far as my pet peeves on contests. So that's how I got started, and it's real simple. So if you have any questions about my contest, always feel free to reach out. A couple things I've received questions on that often come up, and I'm going to give you my reasons why I have these answers. And the first one is, why do you have height classes over weight classes? And there's a number of reasons. And the first one, I get this email constantly, even up recently for the show coming up I'm promoting. What weight classes do you have? I said, no, I do height classes. And it's at least 3 reasons why. The first one being, selfishly as a promoter, you don't want to have to waste time weighing everyone. I mean, that's just more time in the morning that you have to spend. You have to gather everyone up, and you have to weigh them. And therefore, not knowing what they weigh and figuring out in the morning, guess what? You then have to put all the classes together. That's just more time as far as organizing. I like to go into these contests that I promote having all that paperwork done. The only changes I'll make, if someone says, please let me cross over, I may do it. Or if they need to drop out of a class, we get to scratch them off, or someone doesn't show up, I just scratch them off. But I don't like having the fact that I need to change or actually develop the whole order of events in all the classes, because I like all that information printed out days before, laid out, hand it to the judges, expediters, and boom, you're all set. So that's the selfish reason of just doing height classes. The other reason is for the competitor. Now, often when we hear weight classes, you think about, I got to make a weight, or I want to be the highest of the weight. So I don't agree with that, because you should diet down to the point that you're going to look the best rather than trying to make a weight. You may be dieting down muscle to make a weight class, and that's ridiculous. If the judges are good, they're going to judge you properly. They're going to compare you properly. They're not just going to say, he's too heavy or too light. The judges don't know your weights anyway. Even if you're in a weight class of light, well, I don't even know what the ranges are. Let's say 154 to 170 or whatever it may be, 15-pound increments. They don't know, and they don't care. And that goes for the height classes. The height classes will set you up, in a range. And you'll see, if you have enough guys to make up 3 different classes, well, it's all going to be close in height anyway, give or take a few inches, and a proper judging panel will be able to judge you as far as, seeing you the right light that you should be in rather than putting you in these weight classes. So it's multiple reasons. Selfish reasons, being organized, for the fact that I don't want, competitors to diet down or figure they have to make a weight class and do stupid things at the end to try to make a weight class, cutting water or just dieting too hard. And the other reason being that it's just not needed. It really comes down to how you look, and a proper judging panel will judge you in the right light. And if there's enough for height classes, if there's enough for multiple classes, I'll split them up. And that goes to the other thing. I know promoters that'll have weight classes and stick by them. I've been to shows where there would be one bantamweight and 10 lightweights, and then 5 middleweights. Well, why not take those 16, cut it in half, and have 2 even classes? It blows my mind because it's just a waste of time. Having one guy come out, do his quarter turns, give him the first place award, and then you got to judge 10 guys for the lightweight and then 5 for the middle. I mean, you have 3 classes where ideally you can split it up into 2 if you want to, and you're going to be saving a lot of time. So that's my little rant, and I'm passionate about keeping the height class over the weight class. Another question I get is, why can't women cross over now? Years ago when the OCB first got started, sure, they allowed crossovers because obviously they want to draw in more interest. Well, now it's become more defined. The OCB IFPA is, I would think, the largest natural federation out there, so that you can be a little bit more stricter with these rules. And really, those looks should be different. I've been to shows back in the early days of the OCB when there was a woman winning the women's bodybuilding and the figure. Well, maybe they didn't have enough competitors, so they allowed it. But personally, I'm glad they did away with it, because between women's physique, figure, and bodybuilding, they all possess different looks. And I touched upon that before, I think, in a video blog, or I will if you want me to expand on it. They're different looks, okay? A women bodybuilder has a different look, should be leaner, carry a little bit more muscle than a figure competitor. The women's physique competitor, the posing's different, a little more feminine than the actual physique, but is awfully close, and we're going to see how that happens over the next season for the OCB. As far as the last question that I get is really about the divisions. Here we go. I'm sorry, because there are some shows that will offer more divisions than others, and obviously there has to be the number of competitors to warrant it. I get complaints that, why don't you have a teen division? Well, a couple times I've offered that and I wouldn't have any. I would take it away, and then someone would say, well, you had it before. I said, well, I didn't have any that time. So what I do is, it's really about making a time efficient prejudging. So having so many classes could just slow the show down. That's why I got rid of teen bodybuilding. But instead, I have men juniors, because I would rather have a larger group out there in one class than maybe 1 in teen and then 3 in juniors. So the juniors is 22 and under, so that covers that realm, and it's easier that way. And also, I did try one time men's debut. Now, the reason why that didn't work out, because everyone, I did it twice. Everyone that did men's debut was either an open or a novice anyway. My goal is not just to take people's money and just have them cross over and cross over and cross over. My goal is, again, to make the show efficient. And I also thought the men's debut was really kind of silly, only because the couple times I offered it, it was guys' first time competing, and I trusted them, but they've been weight training for years. So then you would get the guys who've never competed, literally, and have only been weight training a little bit, and it became too much of a mishmash, in my opinion. So therefore, I stopped offering it. Because, again, they all crossed over to other divisions anyway. Now, the figure debut, I have seen just women entering figure debut. So the way, as a promoter, you look at that, well, if I didn't offer it, they wouldn't be doing the show. So those are the few questions I get, honestly, a lot, as far as height classes, actual, the classes, and why not I have them. And the last one is really about crossovers. But always feel free to let me know, or if you have any questions about the show, email me, post it up, whatnot. So in summary, that's about it. I got started promoting many years ago, 2006. Early 2000s, late 1990s. That's when I wanted to promote. I found the OCB, and those are the few questions that I get constantly, and just wanted to address them. So hopefully it was somewhat helpful, and thanks for watching. Bye.